What if I said to you that the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche was more than an author of grand, shocking ideas like God is dead or the Superman? What if I could tell you that crammed into his writings was a toolkit, psychological weapons so razor-sharp they could slash through the masks we wear and slice through to what is being concealed about what people really are? It is as a radical or a poet that most readers took Nietzsche. But if you read him closely, he is also a psychological sleuth. He grasped human psychology decades before Freud or Jung. He saw how people showed themselves through their resentments, their language, their contradictions, even their laughter. Nietzsche wasn't simply a philosopher of life. He did surgery on it, with a surgeon's steel and a butcher's blood-splattered counter. And that is precisely what we are doing today. Here we reveal 18 Nietzschean secrets to reading people. These aren't surface-level tricks. They're deep insights that alter the way you see human beings, friends, foes, strangers, and even yourself. By the time this is over, you'll also understand why Nietzsche is still feared, still misunderstood, and still relevant. Because when you learn how to read people the Nietzschean way, you no longer become blind to the games of power, resentment, and hidden motives. Let's begin. Nietzsche thought a lot of morality isn't about truth. It's about blending in. People generally conceal their personal weakness behind ethical phrases. Consider the one who's always talking about how selfish everyone else is. What is it that hounds them about selfishness? Nietzsche would say it's because they feel powerless in a universe of strong-willed, uncompromising men, and so they turn weakness into a moral ideal. They tell us, selfish is bad, selfless is good. But the truth is they're only trying to defend themselves from the more powerful. That is why Nietzsche said that morality tends to be written by the resentful and the powerless. They make up moral codes to belittle strength so that they can feel big without being strong. This you've no doubt observed everywhere in the world today. In politics, in social movements, in workplaces, people dousing insecurity with loud moral outrage. Ask yourself this: why is someone preaching morality rules so much? The first secret of Nietzsche is this: beneath morality there is often weakness posing as virtue. Nietzsche distrusted absolute convictions. He once remarked, "Convictions are more dangerous foes of truth than lies." Why? Because that's what happens when a person believes absolutely instead of questioning. They stop growing. Their belief is a dungeon, and they paint the walls in nice words. Picture the guy who demands that no one is allowed to critique his ideology of choice, be it political, religious, or his own personal code of conduct. They say, "I don't even have to listen to the other side because I know the truth." This is what Nietzsche would say. Here there is no freedom. They are trapped. Real strength, Nietzsche argued, is the power to question your own mind, to doubt everything you believe. When you meet someone who can't abide doubt, you've met someone who is imprisoned by dogma. If you are looking for reading people, find ways to listen to the stories they tell to one another about themselves, and see how firmly they hold on. The more it clamps down, the less space there is to move. We all wear masks. This Nietzsche understood better than most. But here's his trick. The mask reveals the truth. If they carried excessive humility, if every second sentence from anyone's mouth is self-consciously self-deprecating, Nietzsche would smell pride. They want you to notice how humble they are. If the boastful are forever displaying their successes, the mask shows you the reverse. They're insecure, desperate to be noticed. But instead of trying to tear the mask off, Nietzsche would have us study it carefully. Ask yourself, what is it in attempt to cover? That answer is where the actual person will be. In today's world, this is even more potent. Masks populate social media, filters, layers of curated posts, and an envy-inducing lifestyle. But if you look at the mask, you often glimpse the cracks. Loneliness masquerading as glamour, insecurity masquerading as confidence. Nietzsche's third secret: the mask isn't just a disguise, it's a confession. For Nietzsche, one of the strongest forces in human psychology was resentment, a deep, seething hatred. And unlike anger, which flares and burns out, resentment sticks around. It poisons the mind. Much of what we value, believe, and even worship, Nietzsche contended, grows out of resentment. To read someone, look at what they dislike most. Are they psychic vampires who only see and endlessly remind you of how terrible things are and how the world has done them wrong? Do they take pleasure in others' failures? Do they hold grudges half a decade later? As Nietzsche would put it, you have just discovered their soul. Resentment is not arbitrary. It names a specific thing that someone secretly wants but perceives as being held back. The man who hates the rich may yet pine to possess their wealth. One always hates the crowd the most when one secretly wants to be in it. If you want to find out what someone's deepest hunger is, Nietzsche says, don't ask them, "What do you want?" because that's what you want to hear. There was something slighted that Nietzsche smelled. People's hatreds are never arbitrary. If you hate something deeply, there's generally something hating in you. Think about it. Why does someone hate arrogance while another person hates weakness? Why does one hate luxury and another hate poverty? Hatred is a mirror. It reveals what you are insecure about, what you want. Nietzsche's trick here is an obvious one. When someone is talking about what causes them the strongest antagonistic feelings, they're really telling you all about what defines them. You can tell a lot about a man's history by what he hates. So the next time someone goes on a tirade about what they're repulsed by, don't tune it out. Study it. It's a psychic fingerprint, that hatred. In Nietzsche's universe, genuine strength doesn't have to declare itself. If a person is powerful, they don't have to scream from the mountaintop. They simply act. But weakness is noisy. The person consumed by insecurity brags and boasts, makes a scene, because they're trying to convince themselves and others that they're strong, that they're good, that they belong. Nietzsche believed that true strength is often still. The leader who is steady and doesn't seek applause is much stronger than the one who demands loyalty at all times. He is the stronger man, who will not be too much provoked. For in reading people, says Nietzsche, listen not to the loudest voice but to the faintest speaker. That's where strength hides. Nietzsche had a radical kind of suspicion. When people speak well of common morality, these righteous, as he calls them, the good lacking in power, they are simply hiding their own distress or weakness, whatever it may be that makes the weak weak. Think about charity. A rich person donates millions, but their name is also etched into the building. Is that really selfless? Or is it actually a way to buy a good reputation? Or the friend who does you a favor and never lets you forget it when they need a favor in the future? Nietzsche is not claiming that kindness doesn't exist. He is saying, there is frequently a secret exchange taking place beneath the surface. The selfless act may buy social approval, assuage guilt, increase status. To read people, Nietzsche encourages us to inquire. What hidden advantage does this person enjoy by being selfless? Once you read it, you'll come to understand that most of what is labeled altruism is actually thinly veiled self-interest. Nietzsche thought there was no better sculptor of the soul than suffering. When you meet a new person, perhaps you'd like to know about that person's beliefs, opinions, or education. But Nietzsche would argue that those things are all surface. To know what someone is made of, look at their suffering. What hardships have they endured? Did those hardships bring them down, or did they make them stronger? Did they convert pain into grudge or into wisdom? Nietzsche himself lived this truth. For much of his life, he grappled with poor health, isolation, and rejection. But from that suffering, he developed his philosophy. He felt that greatness was achieved not despite one's pain, but in spite of it. So the next time you want to get to know someone, don't just ask what they think. Ask what they've survived, which reveals much more about who they are. For Nietzsche, people are powered by an animalistic instinct, which he called the will to power, the desire to expand, to assert, to exert influence over other people and the world around us. And he thought you heard this drive in the language people employ. Listen carefully. The one who states, I have to, I am in control, I have to have this, exposes his lust for power. He who never opens his mouth without saying, "I can't, I am sorry, I hope," manifests a spirit of humiliation. Even subtle word choices matter. So a person who habitually defines life as a war is probably inclined to see relationships and jobs as things to conquer. But someone who is always careful in using words may also be dominated by fear. Nietzsche's trick: do not merely listen to what people are saying, but analyze the power dynamic within their language. It's where the will to power gets buried. Nietzsche liked to talk about laughter. He used to say that he could only trust a god who knew how to dance and how to laugh. Why? And because laughter is tough to feign, it erupts out of the unconscious. Notice what other people are laughing at. If they laugh at cruelty, hidden aggressions are being revealed. If they only laugh when others laugh, it is a sign of insecurity. There's something strong in being able to laugh at yourself. Mockery especially is revealing. When one does nothing but make fun of others all the time, Nietzsche would say, that's not humor, that's resentment spilling out through laughter. So if you truly want to know what someone believes, don't listen to what they say when they are being serious. Pay attention to what escapes when they laugh. Nietzsche thought most people never see the world for what it is. They do not just mirror, but reflect their interior onto the exterior as well. That's why two people can live the same life and yet perceive it differently. A wounded person sees a cruel, wicked, and hopeless world. A hopeful person sees opportunity and something lovely in everything. To Nietzsche, it means people are exposing themselves whenever they talk about reality. They're not just telling you about the world, they're confessing what's inside of them. So when someone says the world is rotten, don't take it as an opinion. Think of it as a big screen display of their inner lives. Reality is their description of their reflection of their own chaos or their own harmony. No matter how civilized society may become, Nietzsche pointed out, human beings never cease striving for rank. And even those who say they've turned away from status games frequently are simply playing the games at a higher level. For example, someone who declares, "I don't believe in caring what's popular," often seems to use that repudiation as a way to indicate that they are better than those of us who do. Status is like oxygen. You don't see it, but everybody is breathing status. Nietzsche thought that in every group, every relationship, every society, people are ranking themselves, silently, stealthily, comparing and competing. Paying attention to what rank they put themselves in, this is how you read people. The signal can be subtle. It can be body language. It can be interruption. It can be name dropping. It can even be silence. In all of these instances, people are playing. Nietzsche's lesson: you don't know what people think or what they believe or what their values are until you know what game they are playing, until you know what invisible hierarchy they imagine themselves in. Nietzsche didn't trust people's stated beliefs. He said, the real truth of a person's life, their real values, is just their disagreements. If someone says, "I believe in peace, I hope the circumstances are always settled peacefully," but they're delighted by violent films, Nietzsche says, I absolutely believe that they are delighted by violent films. If someone says they hate money, and yet constantly bellyaches about not having enough of it, there's your real truth. People rarely lie as baldly as that. Instead, they feign good intentions, and their conduct soon shows their true colors. Nietzsche's trick was simple: ignore what people say. Track the contradictions between word and deed. The contradiction is the confession, the modern equivalent. If someone goes on and on about honesty, watch out. They may just be covering up their dishonesty. And if they're preaching humility, be wary of the concealed pride. Contradictions are holes in the mask, and Nietzsche would squint through them to see the reality of things. Nietzsche had scant respect for anyone who attributed his or her values to pure reason or divine command. He thought every value conceals an instinct. One does not first think rationally and then choose values. Instead, their body, their temperament, their instincts make the choice. And then the mind works overtime, coming up with between semi-noble sounding reasons. For example, instead of observing that they value hard work because they're honest, But Nietzsche would say that the true answer is instinct, that they have a hunger for victory, that they dread indolence, or that they have been molded by a life in which survival demanded discipline. It changes how you read people. Don't wonder why they claim to share certain values. Ask, what impulses are being indulged? Their logic is mere instinct under a mask. For Nietzsche, it wasn't what people said that was his province, but how they said it. To him, style was the mirror of the soul. Think about it. Two people can utter the same sentence, but one does so with cool confidence and the other with anxious stuttering. The words are the same, but the manner of speaking is the mark of completely different personalities. Nietzsche himself was known for his incendiary poetic prose. He understood that style cannot be removed from spirit, which is why he counseled you to never trust ideas decontextualized from the tone, rhythm, and personality of the speaker saying them. Or another way of putting it, if you want to read someone, stop looking at only content. Get a listening of their style, the posture, the rhythm, the tone. These are the fingerprints of their interior world. Nietzsche insisted that human nature is not rational by nature. Unconscious forces drive us, instincts, desires, drives, all of which play out beneath our awareness. A person may insist that they choose freely, but Nietzsche's response would be, look close enough and you'll see patterns. The addict who insists he can stop anytime he wants, the jealous lover who can't stop obsessing, the worker who wrecks his health in his climb to the top. These are people who are not free, people ruled by the things they do not govern. If you really want to read someone, find what drags them forward when all they want to do is stop. That force, whether it's lust, fear, ambition, or resentment, is their real master. Nietzsche's one-liner. Freedom is for the rare, since most people are ruled by what they can't help doing. Character is destiny, Nietzsche wrote. He believed the future is not some mystery. It is already written in the present, in the habits that form a person's character. If someone says they want success but they waste time every night, Nietzsche doesn't believe what you are telling him, he believes your habits. When someone wants to be great and hangs around mediocrity, they are competed against already. To peer into someone's destiny, do not ask about their goals. Observe their daily patterns. Small things done repeatedly create the path of a person's life. Nietzsche's last secret. The habits of a person are their destiny. Nietzsche was not only a philosopher musing about abstract truths, more than a psychologist before there was such a thing as psychology. He looked under the hood, behind the facade, beneath the surface of every human impulse and interaction, and distilled the hidden drives underlying morality, the fissures in the veneers worn by individuals, the way that resentment poisons the soul, the manner in which laughter gives away secrets, and the way that seemingly quotidian habits quietly point the way to destiny. These 18 secrets of Nietzsche's aren't merely intellectual curiosities. They are tools, dangerous tools. Through them, you can see past the falsehoods that others present. You can slice through words and locate the instincts, the resentments, the drives underneath. But watch out. You can't unsee it once you learn to read people like this. The masks will fall away. Inspiring speeches will ring hollow. The contradictions will yell at you. And you'll have discovered what Nietzsche discovered, that human beings are not what they pretend to be. They are beings of instinct, power, resentment, and fragile dignity. I mean, the real question here is, now that you see the truth, what will you do with it?